The rain had just begun to fall when 17-year-old Emily Carter vanished from the quiet town of Willow Creek. It was a Friday evening, the kind where the streets glistened under the streetlights and the sound of thunder echoed softly in the distance. She had told her mother she was going for a short walk before dinner, something she often did to clear her mind. When she didn't return, no one thought much of it at first. But by midnight, worry turned into panic. Her jacket was later found near the old railway tracks, damp and torn at the sleeve. Beside it lay her phone, screen cracked and dark. There were no signs of a struggle, no footprints, no message left behind. The next morning, the police declared her missing. And by the end of the week, most of the town had already settled on one explanation: Emily had run away. The whispers started in grocery lines and coffee shops. People said she'd been distant lately, that she'd been posting strange things online, that she probably wanted a new life somewhere far from the small town. Her classmates remembered how she'd grown quieter that last month, how she had begun spending more time alone. Her father, a truck driver, was away on the road, leaving her mother, Linda, to face the endless questions, the pitying looks, and the gnawing silence that filled their home. Linda refused to believe the rumors. Her daughter hadn't run away. She knew it deep in her bones. Emily had been planning to start college, had saved money for a new camera, and had spent the night before she vanished making a list of things she wanted to photograph that summer. None of it made sense. The police searched for 10 days before scaling back their efforts. The volunteers stopped showing up. Flyers peeled off the lampposts, curling at the corners as the weather changed. Linda spent her nights sitting in Emily's room, her eyes tracing the photographs pinned to the wall, memories of birthdays, road trips, and sunny afternoons by the lake. The scent of Emily's vanilla candle still lingered faintly in the air. Linda clung to it, desperate for any connection, any sign. Then one morning, while cleaning her daughter's closet, she noticed something missing: Emily's journal. It had always been there, tucked between her books, filled with sketches and notes about her day. Now it was gone. That discovery sparked something inside her. If Emily had taken the journal, maybe she hadn't planned to disappear. Maybe she was going somewhere specific. Linda began retracing her daughter's last steps, walking the same route Emily had taken that evening. She followed the winding path by the library, then down to the edge of Maple Woods, a place most people avoided after dark. There, half hidden beneath the mud and leaves, she found something glinting faintly under the beam of her flashlight. It was a silver pendant, the one Emily never took off. Linda's heart pounded as she knelt to pick it up, her breath catching in the cold air. At that moment, she knew. Her daughter hadn't run away. Something else had happened that night, something no one was willing to see. And from that second on, Linda vowed she wouldn't stop until she uncovered the truth. The police reopened the case after Linda brought them the pendant. They combed through Maple Woods again, marking trees with orange ribbons and sifting through the soil near the trail. For days, nothing new appeared. But Linda didn't stop. She returned to the same spot every evening, searching with her own hands, convinced the woods still held a secret. The days blurred together until one afternoon, while following a faint animal path deeper into the trees, she noticed something strange: a small piece of blue fabric tangled in a bush. It matched the color of Emily's favorite hoodie. Linda's pulse raced as she picked it up. Not far from where she stood was a clearing, hidden by overgrown branches and thick moss. There, buried beneath leaves and dirt, she found the remnants of a small campfire. Nearby were empty water bottles and torn snack wrappers. Someone had been living there recently. The police returned to investigate, and among the ashes, they discovered a single piece of paper, the torn corner of a notebook with one word written in Emily's handwriting: "Wait." That single word changed everything. The officers began to believe what Linda had said from the start: Emily hadn't left on her own. Maybe she'd been taken. Maybe she'd been hiding. The discovery renewed hope across the town. Reporters came back, and for a few days, Willow Creek was alive again with speculation. But as quickly as it had started, the attention faded once more when no further leads emerged. The trail, it seemed, had gone cold again. Yet for Linda, the word "wait" echoed endlessly in her mind. She knew Emily had written it for a reason. She began piecing together every small clue that had ever seemed insignificant. A week before Emily vanished, there had been reports of a dark car parked near the school at night. A neighbor had mentioned hearing footsteps outside their window. Even the family dog had barked furiously the night before Emily disappeared. Linda began to see a pattern forming. Someone had been watching her daughter. It wasn't the story the town wanted to hear, but it was the only one that made sense. With renewed determination, she started her own search beyond the woods. She visited nearby towns, gas stations, and rest stops, showing Emily's picture to anyone who would look. Some people turned her away, some barely glanced at the photo, but one attendant at a rest stop remembered something. He recalled a young girl who looked frightened, asking for directions to a bus station late at night, carrying a small backpack and a worn-out notebook. Linda's heart ached. That meant Emily had been alive after she disappeared. The police followed up, checking camera footage from that area, and found a grainy image that seemed to confirm it, a girl with Emily's hair and build getting into a white pickup truck. The driver's face was hidden in shadow. It wasn't the closure Linda hoped for, but it was proof that Emily's story wasn't over. She wasn't a runaway. She was out there somewhere, waiting, just as the note said. And now, for the first time since that rainy night, Linda felt a flicker of something she had almost forgotten how to feel: hope. The investigation shifted completely after the grainy photo surfaced. The police traced the white pickup to a delivery driver named Mark Hanley, a man who worked night shifts for a local courier company. His routes often took him through small towns, and on the night Emily vanished, his GPS showed an unexplained stop near the rest area where the footage was recorded. Detectives questioned him, but his answers were vague. He claimed he'd stopped to fix a tire, denied ever seeing Emily, and said the blurry image could have been anyone. Without solid proof, they couldn't hold him. But Linda wasn't convinced. Something about his calmness didn't feel right. She began digging into his background and found multiple complaints from women who said he'd made them uncomfortable, though none had led to charges. Days passed with little progress, until one evening, the police received a call from a hiker who had seen a flash of light deep in the old national forest bordering Willow Creek. He thought it might be someone camping illegally. When authorities searched the area, they discovered an abandoned cabin hidden by dense trees. Inside were the remains of a makeshift shelter, a cot made from blankets, a few food cans, and a half-empty water jug. On the dusty floor sat a small notebook, damp and curling at the edges. It was Emily's. The pages were smudged, but enough words could be read to piece together fragments of her last days before disappearing again. She had written about feeling watched, about hearing footsteps outside the cabin at night. She wrote that she didn't trust the man who had offered her a ride but felt she had no choice. One sentence made Linda's hands tremble when she read it: "He said he would come back for me." That single line confirmed what Linda had always known: Emily hadn't chosen to run. She had been hiding, trying to survive. The cabin became the center of the investigation, and within days, search teams spread out across the surrounding woods, combing every path and clearing for signs of life. Reporters returned once more, their vans parked along the dirt roads, broadcasting updates about the missing girl whose story had captured national attention. Volunteers flooded in, hoping to help. The atmosphere in Willow Creek changed from quiet grief to restless anticipation. Everyone wanted Emily to be found, though few truly believed she still could be. But Linda believed. Each night she stood at her porch, staring into the darkness beyond the fields, whispering that she was coming. Then, one foggy morning, a park ranger called in a sighting. A young girl, barefoot and thin, had been seen near a creek 20 miles north of town. She'd vanished into the trees when approached. The description matched Emily exactly. Search teams raced toward the area, and after hours of searching through the dense mist, they found a trail of footprints leading toward an old bridge. At its edge lay a small charm bracelet, the one Linda had given Emily for her 16th birthday. It was the clearest sign yet that Emily was still alive, still fighting to make it home. The search teams worked through the night following the footprints that led away from the bridge. Every few yards, they found small traces, a torn shoelace, a broken twig, a faint outline of steps in the damp earth. The forest was thick, the air heavy with fog, and every sound felt amplified. It was as if the woods themselves were holding their breath. The trail eventually split in two directions, one toward the river, the other up a narrow hillside. The police followed both, hoping one would lead them to Emily. Hours passed before a faint cry echoed from the ridge. When the officers reached the top, they found a shallow cave half hidden behind a curtain of ivy. Inside, curled against the stone wall, was Emily Carter. She was alive, weak, and trembling. Her clothes were torn, her face pale, but her eyes opened when she heard her name. For a moment, no one spoke. The officers carefully helped her out, covering her in blankets and rushing her to the ambulance waiting near the trail. The news spread like wildfire through Willow Creek. Within an hour, crowds gathered outside the hospital, holding candles and signs that read, "Welcome home, Emily." For a town that had once assumed she'd run away, the story had taken a turn that no one could have predicted. At the hospital, doctors confirmed Emily had been dehydrated and malnourished but would recover. When she was strong enough to write, she began to recount what had happened. She explained that she hadn't run away at all. The night she disappeared, she'd realized someone was following her on her walk home. She tried to take a shortcut by the railway tracks, but before she could reach the main road, a man approached in a pickup truck. He claimed he wanted to help, but when she refused, he became aggressive. She ran, slipping in the mud, losing her phone and jacket as she tried to escape. Eventually, she hid in the woods until the sound of the truck faded. She didn't know where to go, afraid that whoever was following her might return. For days, she survived on rainwater and food she'd packed in her backpack. When the driver found her hiding place days later, she fled deeper into the forest, eventually finding the old cabin where she stayed until the supplies ran out. Her journal entries had been desperate attempts to stay sane, writing reminders to herself not to give up. The word "wait" had been meant for her mother. She believed that somehow, Linda would come. She had wanted to leave a message if someone ever found the camp. That small act of hope had carried her through the weeks of fear and isolation. When Linda finally saw her daughter for the first time in nearly a month, she didn't speak. She simply held her close as if to make up for every lost second. The nightmare had ended, but its memory would forever linger in the corners of their hearts, a reminder of how close despair had come before hope finally broke through. The day Emily left the hospital, the entire town of Willow Creek gathered along Main Street. The same people who had whispered that she'd run away now stood with tears in their eyes, holding flowers and banners that read "Welcome home." Cameras lined the sidewalks, reporters eager to capture the reunion that had turned tragedy into triumph. Emily, thinner and quieter than before, walked slowly beside her mother, her hand tightly gripping Linda's. Every step seemed heavy with memory, yet filled with the quiet strength of someone who had faced the darkest parts of the world and survived. Life didn't return to normal immediately. The house that once felt warm and familiar now carried the weight of fear and questions. Emily's room remained untouched, every object a reminder of what had almost been lost. At night, she often woke from nightmares of the forest, the sound of footsteps, the rustle of branches, the feeling of being hunted. Linda sat beside her each time, never leaving her side, whispering that she was safe now. Slowly, the panic began to fade. Therapy sessions and long walks helped Emily start to heal, but the memories never completely disappeared. The police continued their investigation and eventually gathered enough evidence to arrest Mark Hanley. Tire tracks near the trail matched his truck, and one of Emily's hair ties was found in the passenger seat. The town that once pitied Linda now saw her as a symbol of unshakable faith. Without her persistence, the truth would have been buried beneath assumptions and silence. People began calling her the mother who never stopped believing. Months later, Emily and Linda were invited to share their story on national television. Sitting beneath the bright studio lights, Emily's voice trembled as she described the fear of being lost, the will to survive, and the hope that someone, her mother, would find her. When the interviewer asked Linda how she had kept going when everyone else had given up, she paused. The world seemed to hold its breath as she looked into the camera, eyes glistening with tears, and said 4 simple words that would echo far beyond that moment: "A mother always knows." Those 4 words spread across the country like wildfire. They appeared on social media, in newspapers, and on posters supporting families of the missing. They became a message of hope for parents who refused to stop searching. Linda never wanted fame, she only wanted her daughter home. Yet her unwavering faith became a light for others lost in the same kind of darkness she had once faced. As autumn returned to Willow Creek, Emily and Linda visited the old trail where everything began. The air was cool, the leaves a swirl of gold and red. They stood together in silence, the pain of the past still present but softened by gratitude. Emily picked up a fallen leaf and smiled for the first time in a long while. The world around them felt new again. They had lost so much: time, peace, innocence, but they had found something stronger. Hope had carried them through, and love had brought them home.